Our top stories for tonight. Syria peace talks in Geneva come to an end with no breakthrough, but both sides agree to return to the negotiating table later this month. The United States carries out more strikes against Al-Qaeda in Yemen in their ongoing fight against the terrorist group. And Turkish and German foreign ministers agree to meet in Germany next week to discuss tensions between the two countries after the cancellation of Turkish ministers' rallies. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. No breakthrough was reached at the Syria peace talks in Geneva as UN Special Envoy for Syria Staffan de Mistura met with the main Syrian opposition and the Syrian government delegation. But as the first UN-led talks in almost a year neared their end, neither side has walked away, and both have also claimed small wins. In 8 days of talks, which conclude later today, the warring sides have not negotiated face-to-face, but continued to haggle over the agenda with the UN mediator, who wants to discuss a new constitution, elections, and reformed governance. The parties plan to return to the Swiss city later this month. Russia, seen as holding the balance of power, has met both sides behind the scenes. Turkey tightened measures to tackle security threats along its borders as Turkish-backed forces pursue a campaign to clear Daesh and Kurdish fighters from a strip of northern Syria. The boosts to border defense come as Turkey continues its Operation Euphrates Shield, launched in August in an effort to push Daesh away from Turkish territories and stop the advance of a Syrian Kurdish militia. Here's more.
Turkey's frontier with war-ravaged Syria is being quietly sealed off with a sprawling complex of walls and minefields. Snaking through even the most desolate regions, Turkey's military is putting on a public display to show it's clamping down on this conduit for Islamic State smuggling. Ankara was accused by some Western powers of being too slow to respond to the flow of foreign fighters across its borders during the early years of Islamic State's rise. Standing at 3 meters tall and dotted with thermal cameras and watchtowers, the wall's construction came as Turkey was deploying its own special forces and armored units deep into Syria last year. It's also separating Turkey from another faction, Kurdish militia known as the PYD. They're backed by the United States and a dominant force on the ground, controlling large swaths of northern Syria. But Turkey associates the PYD with Kurdish separatists they've battled at home for decades. Those militants are labeled a terrorist organization by Turkey, Washington, and the European Union. Turkey has demanded that the PYD be excluded from the fight for Raqqa, Islamic State's de facto capital, but a compromise is yet to be found.
The United States carried out another wave of strikes against Al-Qaeda in Yemen overnight in the latest sign of increasing U.S. military focus on a group whose strength has grown during Yemen's civil war. A day after U.S. forces carried out more than 20 airstrikes in Yemen, residents reported another U.S. assault in the southern Shabwa province, including about 10 to 15 airstrikes. Residents said some of the strikes hit civilian homes and a number of civilians were among the wounded. About 3 hours later, residents in the Jabal Mugan area of neighborhood Abyan province also reported airstrikes. Residents also cited ground battles involving American soldiers and Al-Qaeda militants. But 2 U.S. officials said the latest operations did not involve ground combat. Egypt's top appeals court found former President Hosni Mubarak innocent of involvement in the killing of protesters during the 2011 uprising that ended his 30-year rule. Yesterday's final ruling in the landmark case brought joy to some and confusion to others on the streets of Cairo. The court also rejected demands by lawyers of the victims to reopen civil suits. The families of those killed who had attended the trial early on were not present yesterday. The 88-year-old Mubarak, who denied involvement in the killing of protesters, returned to the military hospital after the verdict. He has already completed a 3-year sentence in a separate corruption case, the only one in which he was convicted. A source with knowledge of the matter said although Mubarak was free to go home, he preferred to remain at the hospital that has become his home under constant medical supervision. German Chancellor Angela Merkel arrived at the Tunisian Carthage presidential palace for talks with President Al-Baji Qaed El-Sebsi. The pair will discuss improving security and slowing the flow of migrants to Europe. This comes as part of Merkel's 2-day North Africa tour to boost relations with the region. She was in Egypt yesterday, where she met President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Turkish and German foreign ministers agreed to meet in Germany next week to discuss tensions between the two countries after the cancellation of the Turkish ministers' rallies. Ties soured between the two countries after local authorities withdrew permission for a meeting of Justice Minister Bekir Bozdağ, who was scheduled to address supporters of Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan in the southwestern German town of Gaggenau. The meeting was part of Ankara's efforts to rally support among Germany's estimated 1.5 million Turkish citizens for an April referendum on expanding the powers of the Turkish presidency. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said a U.S. political scandal over contacts between the Russian ambassador and members of U.S. President Donald Trump's administration looked like a witch hunt. On Wednesday night, the Washington Post reported that the U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions had not disclosed 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador before President Donald Trump took office. While there is nothing legally wrong with such meetings, the reported contacts raise questions about the White House's repeated statements that it knew of no further contacts with Russian officials beyond those by fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
What the Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak and his conversation partners are accused of. Our ambassador is accused of having contacts with American politicians who were in opposition to Obama's administration. To be fair, this is the essence of these accusations. We do not want to copycat, and we won't copycat. But if the same principle was applied to the activity of the U.S. ambassador to Russia, John Taft, and the Russian Federation and his contacts, believe me, the scene would have been a funny one.
More than 2,000 handmade daffodils have been placed in the shadow of St. Paul's Cathedral in London to mark the launch of a charity appeal for those living with terminal illness. The public art installation called the Garden of Light is illuminated throughout the night in Pater Noster Square. Each daffodil is designed to represent each of the Marie Curie nurses who work across the United Kingdom providing care and support for those living with a terminal illness. Artist Andrew Shoban designed the work with his public art collective Grey World.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Beautiful, isn't it?
I poured my heart out as you.
In fashion, Issey Miyake transformed Paris's town hall into a shimmering palette with an autumn-winter 2017-18 collection with fabrics and prints inspired by the Northern Lights. One of the looks featured a voluminous coat in raw shell-tanned wool dyed in an earthy plum tone, evoking the aurora skies. The Japanese house's signature streamlined pleats, which are created using a technique that produces creases using heat-reactive thread that shrinks when steam is applied, produces textures on pants and flowy robes, expressing the dynamism of the dancing lights. Easy-to-wear skirts and dresses in overlapping wave and line patterns were paired with sporty boots, while loose-neck tops and pants in muted monotones were accented with neon-heeled platforms. Issey Miyake is known for pursuing new technology to make clothes, and the house's trademark 3-dimensional outfits were reinvented in the collection. We have reached our Friday fitness and well-being section. Tonight, we cover Pilates, the physical fitness system that was described by Hollywood actor Sylvester Stallone, best known for his role in the Rocky series, as brutal. It was developed in the early 20th century by German national Joseph Pilates, who had dedicated his entire life to improving his physical strength following a sickly childhood. Pilates came to believe that the modern lifestyle, bad posture and inefficient breathing lay at the roots of poor health, which is why he developed Pilates for strong health. Exercising can be done on the mat or the reformer apparatus. In this report, we highlight mat Pilates. The art of controlled movement. This is how Joseph Pilates called his fitness method. The system of exercises intend to strengthen both mind and body, and if consistently practiced, improves flexibility, builds strength, and develops control and endurance in the entire body. Many Western sports teams incorporate Pilates exercises into their cross-training programs, from bodybuilding to triathlon training. For Shireen, who takes this Pilates mat class that incorporates high-intensity interval training, Pilates took her fitness to a whole new level.
I've been doing Pilates for 4 months now, and I've been working out for the longest time, and the differences I've seen while doing Pilates are not seen with anything else. My arms have been the weakest parts of my body, and with Pilates they've gotten a lot stronger, and I can notice that day to day the differences are amazing.
Pilates focuses on 6 original principles as exercising methods. It puts emphasis on alignment, breathing, developing a strong core, and improving coordination and balance. Anyone can join a Pilates class and still find it challenging enough, as different exercises are modified in range of difficulty, from beginner to advanced. The fitness also improves daily functioning and is for everyone.
There's no situation, there's no age, there's nothing that stops you from doing Pilates. It's actually recommended and a prerequisite for everything else that you do. It will help you pick up your kids, it will help you drive to school, it will help you cook, it will help you open a door, it will help you protect your spine, your back, your pelvis, your shoulders, your neck, and everything.
Pilates is also used for rehab, even though there is limited evidence that it alleviates low back pain or improves balance in elderly people. But for Ruwa, who suffers from a herniated disc that affected her leg to an extent she was dragging it, Pilates with a knowledgeable coach was her rehab.
I started Pilates because I hurt my back a while ago and I needed help to recover. I want to say it definitely strengthens the core and your back, but the most important thing is finding the right coach. Because if the coach does not have the knowledge to help you, to motivate you, to show you that you can do anything if you put your mind to it, then I don't think you're going to be able to do anything.
Although there is no research to back Pilates' claims of all of its numerous benefits, Pilates practitioners swear by it through benefits gained firsthand. A good coach makes all the difference. So make sure whatever fitness you decide on, be it Pilates or anything else, you have a knowledgeable coach who will not only inspire you, but will also make you stronger and fitter. Researching the best fitness regime and the most skilled instructor is the best investment of your time towards your health. To your health always, this is Dana Abusham for the News at 10. Spain's Fernando Verdasco reached his first Dubai Championships final, defeating Robin Haas 7-6, 5-7, 6-1. Verdasco was made to battle for the victory with both the first and second sets going the distance. The world number 35 made quick work of the final set, wrapping up victory. Verdasco, who is searching for an 8th ATP title, will face either Andy Murray or Luca Poel in tomorrow's final. Nick Kyrgios served like a demon to bounce Serbia's world number 2 and top seed Novak Djokovic out of the quarterfinals of the Acapulco International with a 7-6, 7-5 victory yesterday. Kyrgyz needed only 1-4 victory, taking the initiative with a rocket of a return off the Serbian second serve and finishing the match off with a fierce forehand winner into the backcourt. Djokovic was returning to action as a wild card in Acapulco after a shoulder injury and playing only his second tour match since his stunning second-round exit at the Australian Open at the hands of journeyman Denis Istomin. And finally, the weather forecast. It will continue to be cold tonight in most regions with partly cloudy skies and westerly moderate winds. Tomorrow, it will be relatively cold in the hilly areas but warm in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea with northwesterly moderate winds. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will be fair tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. Before we end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. Syria peace talks in Geneva come to an end with no breakthrough, but both sides agreed to return to the negotiating table later this month. The United States carries out more airstrikes against Al-Qaeda in Yemen in their ongoing fight against the terrorist group. And Turkish and German foreign ministers agreed to meet in Germany next week to discuss tensions between the two countries after the cancellation of Turkish ministers' rallies. With this, we conclude tonight's news. I'm Dana Abusham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.